Welcome everyone to another CTC Software webinar. My name is Sean Zerbis, Technical Evangelist at CTC Software, and today I want to talk to you about a tool in the BIM Project Suite that's called Length Calculator. We're going to go over a fairly comprehensive introduction on this tool, talk about what it is, what it does, why you care about it, and the fact that it's free. I mean, that's a pretty good price point for a lot of tools, right? If it's free, it usually is something that we can take a look at without any real costs associated to it, other than maybe a little bit of our time. So let's take a look at why we're covering this tool in the first place. Revit natively, when you select more than one item, it doesn't report lengths. It doesn't report things that vary in properties. Now in duct, piping, conduit, cable tray, there's a lot of times when the total run length is important to us. We want to know a connected selection of ductwork, pipe, conduit, whatever, for lengths purposes. And there just is not a way natively in Revit to do this very easily. Now, you can create a schedule. Yeah, you can do that. The problem with schedules, though, is you got to build up some kind of a filter, set some totals. And especially if you're in conduit and cable tray, there's no real default system connection type property. You have to build that yourself and maintain that yourself. And then you're tab selecting a bunch of things to set a property before you can go to a schedule and see that filtered information. And I tell you, this just is not convenient when all you really want is a connected run length. So this is where the length calculator from the BIM Project Suite really comes into play. I'm going to show you live how duct, pipe, conduit, and cable tray can all be quickly calculated. There's no extra steps. It's just tab select and check the length, and it's pretty simple. So we're going to go over a couple of things in particular. First off, for those of you who do not already have this BIM Project Suite, this free tool, I'm going to show you how you can get it. We're going to take a look at the traditional method for how you calculate length in MEP if you want a connected run of things. And I'm only going to demonstrate this on ductwork or piping, but you could do it for any category. We are going to identify some simple selections, how you can select a bunch of things quickly of MEP components. And then we're also going to take a look at if you select multiple types of objects, how you can specify which category of object, which component specifically you're trying to get length calculations for. So we're going to go to all that. First of all, let's talk about how you can get your hands on this suite. So I'm going to pull up the CTC software website here. I'm going to go to products, and from products, I'm going to go into the BIM Project Suite 2022. Current release of the suite is 22.0.0, I believe. So at the time of this presentation. But from this page, if you simply want to try the suite free for 14 days, the licensed tools will work for 14 days, but then after that, the free tools, well, they continue to work forever, so there's no need to pay for anything. Just get the trial, try it out, try some of the paid tools as well, free for 14 days. That'll get you access to the free tools also. That's how you get your hands on it. Just register for that, download it, install it on Revit. Automatically installs Revit 2019 through 22, so you can use this on all versions of Revit 19 to 22 that are, all consistently. So let's go through a live discussion, a live demonstration of how this tool actually works. I have the Revit MEP Productivity Pack opened, another product that we offer that you can get your hands on if you're an MEP user and want some advanced content templates and workflows. In here, I've already got a sort of a sample building built up. This is why I'm using this particular pack. In fact, if I go to the HVAC floor plan, what we'll notice is some hydronic piping and some supply and return ductwork and some other makeup air ductwork and things like that. Let's take a look at what happens when I try to get a length of something, okay? If I mouse over and select a piece of pipe, pretty straightforward. I can go over to length. I can see 61 foot, 1 and some change, almost 2 inches. Great, that's fantastic. If I control key and select another piece of piping, that length goes away. Revit does not anymore tally that up. Now, the size is the same, so I'm seeing common values here. I see that there's a parameter for length, but I don't see a total length of all things selected. And that's where the frustration comes into play. I mean, if I was to go through and tab select an entire run here of piping, I would really like to know what the total length is. And here, because it's mixed types of objects, I don't see anything on that front. And that's, again, the frustration. I could switch out for just pipes, but again, because the values now vary, I see a whole bunch of empty stuff. In the case of piping here, I do have a system name, because when I connect things together, if I'm properly leveraging Revit MEP, I will get a system for connected objects. And so I can filter for just that. Right next to it, its neighbor, this is B1 HWR, hot water recirc. just to the left of that is B1 hot water supply. And so I can see the two different systems side by side, and I could certainly build a schedule for that. And that's what we typically would do, right? New schedule, schedules and quantities. Wait for this thing to pop up, trying to get a length, and I have to wait for this, and then I got to go grab pipes. There we go. And I'm going to tell this that I want to have, what was it, the system name. That's what I want. So system name and the length. I'll just kind of grab those two properties here, and then I have to know to go to sorting and grouping, and group by the system name and uncheck the itemize every instance and make sure I go to formatting and set the length to give me totals. Like, all those are steps that you have to go through just to get this information. Now, the nice thing about a schedule is that I get all of the lengths for all of the systems, and that's going to continue to grow, which is kind of nice, but I have to have built it in the first place and then go to another view to see that, leaving my floor plan so I can see that information and scroll through a list to figure out what it is I'm looking for. In my case, it's pretty easy. B1, HWR, and HWS right on the top of the list alphabetically, but if it was something further down, like the Vs, I have to constantly be scrolling down this list. This is a fairly small building by comparison to what you all probably work on regularly, so your list would probably be significantly longer, and it's just more filtering, more scrolling, and it's not as efficient. And that works great for pipe and ductwork, but now if we're talking conduit and cable tray, there is no system name on conduit and cable tray. You cannot do this. It's impossible. So it's not impossible. You'd have to make yourself your own parameter called system name or run name or something like that, and then do some work to continually tab select the run, enter a value, keep that consistent so that you can filter for that. And that's just not convenient. So let's take a look at how the CTC software length calculator tool here on the BIM Project Suite, how that works. So I'm going to open this tool up. This is one that I personally leave when I'm working in MEP. I usually leave this open all the time, just because I don't have to close it. It can float on top of Revit. I can continue to work. I can put it on a second monitor and just leave it there for me to use. So how does this work? Well, I can tab select a couple of objects, right? The first few connected elements right there. There's 5 of them total. I can tab twice and get to the next junction. I can keep tabbing, get the entire system, get everything that's connected, circle back around to just the connected objects, whatever. In this case, when I select these, I can tell this to calculate the length, and it will come back and give me some numbers. In this case, 318 foot 9 inches of pipes. 65 total segments in this selection. The longest continuous run, 318 foot 3 inches. I tabbed through an extra time to get through the entire system to get just to the pipes, because there's actually 2 portions of this that aren't directly connected. There's a connection through a piece of equipment, and because of that, the longest contiguous run here is 318 foot 3 inches. There's a 6-inch piece of pipe hanging off someplace else. That's a part of the same system. That's good to know, right? I can get this. 65 segments of pipe, 64 that are actually contiguously connected, and then there was an ignored objects in the selection of 77 items. This could be equipment, it could be fittings, it could be a number of things, but this system here, the total length is calculated. Note this little note right here, excluding fittings, which is identical to what the Revit schedule does. It excludes fittings as well. So you'd still have to get those numbers, tally them up. And you can actually build a schedule for those if you really wanted to, but you don't know that fittings consistently have length as a parameter. In fact, most of them don't have it as a shared parameter. They're subjective. They're not built into Revit. So the length of a T versus the length of an elbow or a Y or something like that, that's not consistently reported on fittings, which is why we intentionally exclude them, because we can't guarantee they're all going to have a length property or have it consistently. So this is the length of the pipe, same as what you would get in Revit with a schedule filtered. Notice this little objects drop down right here. It's entirely possible where if I wanted to select, that run of pipe, I actually just closed the length calculator and did not need to. Let's open that back up again. I tab selected a run of pipe out here. I'm also going to tab select a contiguous run here of ductwork and control select that. So when I calculate the length, it will tell me the total length here of ductwork, 31 foot 4 inches, the longest run of contiguous connected sections here, 21 foot 5. And then if I swap this down for pipes, I get that contiguous run there of the piping, right? So I can actually isolate what objects it is I'm dealing with. If I do a window selection across an entire floor, I can see the entire length of pipe on a single floor, or the entire length of conduit or cable tray, or you name it, on a single floor. Okay. Now, I want to be very clear about this. You'll notice that I keep mentioning MEP systems for this: pipe, duct, conduit, cable tray. And that is because those are the types of objects this tool will do length calculation for. Typically, we don't have a lot of people looking for length calculation on walls or, I don't know, railings, because you can just pick them and get those numbers real easy. So in the case of pipe, duct, conduit, and cable tray, because there's multiple selected components in a selected run, that's why this particular tool exists. It's an MEP specific free length calculation tool. All right. This tool is not complicated, y'all. This tool is pretty straightforward. You select some things or tab select some things, hit calculate length, and you can then filter for whatever object types you need. That's the tool, but it saves you the time of needing to build that schedule. I want to thank you for the time that you've given us today. We always appreciate when you show up live to our webinars and interact with us a bit. It gives us the ability to interact with you and answer any questions and get some ideas about tools. But if you do have any questions, I will continue to hang out here for a little while and answer those. Otherwise, thank you all and have a fantastic day.